discussing the work specialization. Now we are going to look at two important components which are very important in organizing. One is chain of command and another one is the span of control. Let us first of all see what these two concepts are in organizing and what is their role in an organizing system. To begin with, let us see that chain of command and span of control are two important aspects in an organization which are related to organizational hierarchy. Both terms may be confused as one and used interchangeably due to their similarities in objective. And the objective is to ensure that human capital within the organization is managed effectively. The key difference between the chain of command and span of control is that the chain of command refers to the level of authority in a company, whereas the span of control is the number of subordinates a manager is responsible for controlling. Let us first of all look at the chain of command. In chain of command, we find that there is a flow, that is the delegation and use of two things. One is authority, another one is the responsibility. The authority and responsibility go hand in hand. Without authority, responsibility has no meaning, and without responsibility, authority has no meaning. It is done at every level in organization, that is from top to bottom, and this is done within the organization, inside the organization. Now, one question is coming to my mind, that why chain of command in organization? You can see the picture on the right side showing the different levels of management and getting direction from their top. And my my point, which needs a specific focus, is what would we do through the chain of command? We come to know about it. We also will find out through the chain of command that who will report to whom in the organization, and to whom should you go if you have some issues or problem during the course of work. During the course of work, different kinds of issues are there. So it is also through the chain of command, it is found easily that whom to report, whom to contact if there is any problem, because these are the normal situations in every organization. Uh, there are three factors that we should focus here, and these three factors help to understand this chain of command in its proper sense. These three factors are the authority, responsibility, and unity of command. Uh, the authority and responsibility. Let us see. Authority is basically about the rights which are inherent in a managerial position. That may be line authority or staff authority. We will discuss authority part later, because we have separate part to deal with the authority. Acceptance theory of authority is the important part to take into consideration here. As far as the responsibility is concerned, as I mentioned earlier also, in this discussion itself, that managers use their authority to assign tasks, subordinates is willing to feel obligation. There are two things. Managers use their authority to assign tasks to their subordinates, and subordinates are willing to feel obligation. A very important part that we should take into consideration, that a person should report to only one manager, is the unity of command. So these are the three factors, students, which will help us to understand the chain of command. Well, after discussing the chain of command, now we are going to look at the span of control. This is another important part. This span of control needs some special focus here in order to understand the concept of the organizing in its proper sense. What is basically the span of control? Span of control is the number of staff that report to a manager. A higher number of reports per manager results in a flatter organizational structure and fewer opportunities for promotion. A lower number of reports per manager results in a taller organization structure, and a more managerial direction and input. The span of control may be defined as a concept because span of control is a concept that describes the number of people that are managed by someone. It is a chain of command notion where the number of subordinates are properly identified to understand a manager's reach. Span of control, well, friends, after having a conceptual clarity of the span of control, now we are going to have a look at the importance of effective span of control in organization. There are a number of benefits which arise in organization because of the effective span of control in organization. Let us see how these things happen, how these things bring improvement in the overall system in the organization. Because first of all, first of all, because of the effective span of control, there is a better supervision and control. If there is an appropriate span of control, in that case, the superior will have a limited number of subordinates under him. This will result in better supervision and control. Try to understand that if there is proper span of control, there will be proper supervision in organization, which is necessary for the growth and development of the organization. Second important point that needs focus here is the because of an appropriate span of control, results will be better and supervision and control will be better, and ultimately it will increase the efficiency of the organization. This increases the efficiency, productivity, and profitability of the organization in the long run. The organization will become more prosperous now if there is a proper and effective span of control being used in organization. Then another important thing which is very important for every organization and which is needed in every organization, that is the good professional relationship. Good professional relations are important for the purpose of the cordial and peaceful relations at the place of work. Employees and employers are the two wheels of same vehicle. They are the most important component in the process of production. Employees are considered as the backbone of organization. So, if there is an appropriate span of control, then the superiors and subordinates will get time to develop close and good professional relationship between themselves. And this good professional relationship will of course bring more efficiency, more productivity, and thereby there will be more profitability in organization and the organization will flourish as compared to past. One more important thing is that if there is an appropriate span of control, then superiors will get time to communicate with every single subordinate. This is a very important thing. Time will make it possible to win the confidence of each and every employee working in the organization. This will improve the communication in the organization. And as we know, that good communication results into good coordination. Therefore, we can say that an appropriate span of control results in good communication and coordination, which is vitally needed for the growth and development of the organization. Another important thing which needs focus here is the span of control and the discipline. The appropriateness of the span of control helps to develop discipline and mutual trust in organization. This way, you can say that there is a lot of significance of the effective span of control in an organization. Students, now, after discussing the importance of the effective span of control, now we are going to have a look at the factors that affect the span of control. There are several factors which have a direct impact on the overall efficiency of the organization. Let's have a look at this picture and find the factors which affect the span of control in an organization, especially in case of the large organizations. Mind you, that in small organizations as such, because the number of employees is very less, so there is not so much discussion, so much debate about the factors affecting the span of control. Let us see what these factors are which are responsible for the or which affect the span of control in an organization. Let us see in details. The very first and most important factor in determining the span of control is the ability of officers who have to manage the organization. If they are very efficient and capable, they can control a large number of subordinates. On the contrary, if the officers are less efficient, they would not be able to control that much number of subordinates in the organization. So this is a very important factor on which the span of control depends. The ability of the officers is considered as one of the most important factors in determining the span of control in an organization, and it tells the officers to manage the affairs of the organization in a systematic way. Another important point, students, that need focus here is the availability of time for supervision. The success of the effective span of control depends upon the time for supervision. This is the second factor which determines the span of control with the managers of higher cadre for supervision. So availability of their time is very important. If they have less time for supervision, they would not be able to control a large number of subordinates. If they have more time, they will be able to control a large number of subordinates in the organization. Another important factor which we should also take up here, which affects the span of control in an organization, is the nature of work. Students, the span of management is affected by the nature of work also. If the work is of a simple and routine nature, managers can control a large number of persons. On the contrary, if the work is more complicated, managers cannot have effective control over a small number of employees only. Now, it clearly indicates the type of work, the nature of the work, which has a direct bearing on the span of control in an organization. If the plans of enterprise are clear and stable, the managers feel it easy to control the activities of their subordinates. So it is the plan or the plans for the enterprise, which matter a lot in case of the span of control. On the contrary, if the plans of the enterprise or the plans of organization are not stable, it becomes very difficult for the managers to control the activities of a large number of subordinates. So it depends upon the plans of organization, whether these are clear or stable. And the manager's feeling depends upon the clarity and stability of the plans of organization. Another important thing on which the uh, span of control depends is the ability and efficiency of subordinates. I want to tell you here one thing, that if the subordinates are able, if the subordinates are efficient and they are willing to coordinate with their higher officers easily, managers can control a large number of subordinates at one time. A very important factor which affects the span of management is the ability, efficiency, and of course the willingness of the subordinates. So here we can say that the ability and efficiency of subordinates has an impact on the effective, or you can say in other words, the span of control of organization depends upon this factor too. Then, techniques of control. Students, the span of control depends upon the techniques of control also. If the techniques of control are effective and the managers can control a large number of subordinates. On the contrary, again, it is the technique of individual supervision which is used, then the managers will not be able to maintain effective control of all the employees. So which technique is being used in organization? On this also depends the span of control. Because the span of control depends upon the techniques of control. If the managers are adopting the organization effectively, if they are controlling the organization effectively, then they of course can control a large number of subordinates. So then a kind of system emerges in organization. And another important point that needs our focus here, which is also one of the important factors for the span of control, is the degree of decentralization. If there is an adequate decentralization of power in an enterprise, the subordinates can control a large number of subordinates because their burden of work will be light. On the contrary, if the centralization is not so much adopted in organization, managers will be able to have effective control over a small number of subordinates only. Try to understand the difference between these two, whether there is a decentralization or centralization. Decentralization and centralization will come up later on in our future discussions. So, in short, what we can sum up, that if there is an adequate decentralization of power in the enterprise, the managers can control a large number of subordinates because their burden of work will be light. On the contrary, if the centralization is not so much adopted, managers will be able to have effective control over a number of subordinates, a small number of subordinates only. Services of experts, students, are important. The services of experts also have an impact on the span of control in an organization. The number of subordinates under the control of one officer will be limited if the service of expert is available in an enterprise. The number of subordinates under the control of one official may be more, and if the services of experts are not available in the organization, the number of subordinates under the control of one officer will be limited. So it is also another important point to take into consideration regarding the factors of effective control, factors of effective span of control in the organization. Students, after discussing the important aspects relating to the factors affecting the span of control, we now will touch upon a very important aspect, that is the types of span of control. Apparently, there are two types of control: narrow span of control and wide span of control.